Next one, for environmental challenges to be dealt firmly, the focus should be on conceptualization of the process of environmental governance. So basically, we have to focus here on comment and speculate on the principles which are lying behind the foundation of environmental governance. So what environmental governance is all about? Let us just first look at this environmental governance. So basically, it's a concept in political ecology which promotes environmental policy, right? Whatever, just see that in policy making and in policy implementation, how environment is also involved. It is not per se about that you have to just work for the environment to make it sustainable, but in doing anything for that matter, how the environment will have a role to play in the entire process of governance. So the environmental governance, it refers to the processes of decision making involved in control and management of the natural and natural environment and natural resources. Now, when we say natural environment and natural resources, so it's not that this is only the work of the Ministry of Environment. It is also the work of all the ministries, that whatever they are doing, even for that matter, infrastructure development. So there has to be principles of environmental governance followed by the Ministry of Transportation or Ministry of Infrastructure Development, whatever, even Water Resource Ministry. They will have to follow the principles of environmental governance so that overall environmental sustainability can be maintained. So this is like, again, a multifunctional, multi-sectoral approach, right? In fact, distinctively also, every organization or institution needs to follow environmental governance. And it is not just the task of the Ministry of Environment that it is going to preserve conserve the environment. So the multi-level interaction, global level, national level, international level, all of them among but not limited to three main sectors: state, markets, and civil society, and they are also interacting whether in informal or formal ways. So this is how you define the environmental governance. Environmental governance is not just about the government, it's about within the government, it's about outside the government, it's about the partnerships. Again, just relate together the governance paradigm with the need of sustainable environment, how the two are connected. So in formulating and implementing policies in response to environment-related demands and inputs from the society, that means we are keeping in mind while we are making the policy, while we are implementing the policy, the environmental component will always be kept into mind. Bound by rules, procedures, process, and widely accepted behavior, those elements may also be there, and possessing characteristics of good governance, as I told you. So it's environmentalism plus good governance for the purpose of attaining environmentally sustainable development. So this had been the entire definition. Actually, I've just broken it up into parts so that you can focus upon different aspects. First is the multi-level interaction. Second is in formulation and implementation of policy, how the environment related inputs are important. Then, of course, the rules, procedures, processes that are widely acceptable behavior, because here you are talking about many stakeholders, right? So it's not just about that in conservation of environment, the efforts you are just looking at from the bureaucratic perspective. It has to be seen as an overall process, right? Which is, and also to be taken into consideration what are widely accepted behavior. Possessing characteristics of good governance, this I have already told you. So all these aspects, they form what is environmental governance. Now let us look at it a little more specifically. The key principles are, first, embedding the environment in all levels of decision making and action. I just told you, right? Whatever decisions you are taking in the government, outside the government, everywhere, environment should be one of the components, right? Like, for example, even when you talk about green budgeting, that means preparing the budget from the perspective of environment. That means we are looking at those expenditures which are environment friendly and those expenditures which are not environment friendly. That could be also an example of environmental governance, green budgeting. Conceptualizing cities and communities, and this is an important point. We are looking at cities and communities not as an isolation entities or units. Rather, we see them as a subset of the environment overall, right? That means basically this would be like a systems approach, where the subsystems are these cities or communities and the larger system is the environment. Third is emphasizing on the, there's some mistakes in this, connection to the people and the ecosystem. Just focus on that point. Connection of the people to the ecosystem in which they, so the man-environment relationship essentially. So when we are talking about governance, environmental governance, for that matter, let's say the Ujjwala Yojana, right? In Ujjwala Yojana, when you're looking at it from environmental governance perspective, then you have to see that how the relationship is changing between people and environment. Obviously, it is going to change because now this particular program is going to help in the conservation of environment, because probably the women will not go out into the forest to collect or bring in the the wood for the fuel and fodder. Or sometimes even this also leads to, so every time it is not environmental destructive, sometimes it leads to environmental destruction. Promoting the transition from open, this is a very important point. Promoting the transition from open loop cradle to grave. Like, for example, this is like something an unsustainable practice, right? That you create something and then it ultimately gets destructed. But when we talk about recycling, then it doesn't end over here. You create something new out of this and it comes back and it recreates the entire cycle. So sustainability is always about this cycle. So this is what is said in administrative terms over here, is promoting the transition from open loop or cradle to grave system to closed loop cradle to cradle systems like permaculture or zero waste strategies. These would be examples. So I think this much would be enough for you to write this answer on